All right, thank you. All right, good morning. Today we'll be doing chapter number 4, and the chapter is light. So first, let's start with the definition of light. Light, it is a form of energy that enables sensation of sight. It means that because of light, you are able to see. Supposing if this room was dark, you would not be able to see anything. But as soon as you turn the lights on, or there's a source of light, you are able to see very clearly what are the objects in the room. Now, this chapter deals with the reflection of light. So, the definition of reflection of light is, it is the bouncing back of light into the same medium in which it was incident after striking the surface. So, let me draw a diagram and show you exactly what that means. Supposing if you have a plane surface and this is a mirror, and I'm drawing these hairlines to indicate this is the back of the mirror. Supposing this is a ray of light which is coming from a source, let's say for example the sun, and this ray of light, when it strikes the surface, it will bounce and it will enter into the same medium. Now the medium from which this ray of light was coming was from the air, and as you can see, the ray of light is bouncing back into the same medium, which is also air. Next, we'll discuss about the different types of reflection. The first type of reflection is regular reflection. Now, regular reflection is observed in cases of a plane mirror or simply a mirror. You can observe this happening in still water or smooth oil surfaces. Now in this case, what happens is the surface is smooth, it is polished, and let's say this is the back of the surface and this is the front of the surface. If a ray of light, let's say I'll take two rays of light which are parallel to each other, after they reflect off the surface, you will find that these two rays will reflect in such a way that the rays of light are parallel. You can see that this is the incident ray which is parallel to each other. When they bounce off, it is also parallel to each other. So if you have a reflection that looks like this, it is called a regular reflection. Another type of reflection is called irregular reflection, and you can observe this kind of reflection taking place in surfaces like a dirty mirror or moving water or painted surfaces. So in this case, what happens is that the surface that you have is not very smooth. So let's say this is the back portion of the surface and you have the surface over here which is not very smooth. Let's say in this case also, two rays of light are incident, Now, depending on the angle at which the incident ray strikes the surface, okay, the ray of light will bounce in different directions. Now, you can see that the rays of light are coming parallel, but they are not leaving parallel. So they are getting diverged in this case, and they are going in different directions. So if you have a reflection that is taking place in this manner, it is called an irregular reflection. Irregular reflection is also called diffused. It is also called diffused reflection. Next, let's discuss the terms that is used related to reflection. In this case, let me take a plane mirror which will act as a reflecting surface. This hairline that I am drawing, this represents the back of the mirror, and the upper surface is the reflecting surface. Now let us say that we have a source of light, which is a torchlight, for example, and we just take a single ray of light which strikes the surface. This ray of light which is coming from the source and striking the reflecting surface, this ray is called incident ray. It is called the incident ray. Now, on striking the surface, this point at which the incident ray strikes the reflecting surface, this point here is called the point of incidence. Now, since this is a reflecting surface, the incident ray strikes the reflecting surface and it bounces off. Now, before that, let me tell you that if you draw a line, a vertical line, which is at an angle of 90 degrees, this line which is at the point of incidence and 90 degrees to the surface or reflecting surface, this imaginary line is called the normal. Now, between the normal and the incident ray, an angle is formed. This angle will represent using I, and this angle is called angle of incidence. Now, after this incident ray strikes the surface, this incident ray will bounce off the reflecting surface. This ray of light is called the reflected ray. Now, you have to understand that there's also an angle formed with the normal and the reflected ray, and this will represent using R, and this angle is called angle of reflection. So these are the different terms related to reflection. So to recap, this is the ray of light that is coming from the source which strikes the reflecting surface. This is called the incident ray. At this point where the incident ray strikes, that is called the point of incidence. At the point of incidence, if you draw a line, a vertical line which is at an angle of 90 degrees, that is called the normal. This ray of light, this incident ray, after striking the reflecting surface, when it bounces off, this is called the reflected ray. The angle that is formed between the incident ray and the normal, this angle here is called angle I, and that is called the angle of incidence. And the angle formed between the reflected ray and the normal, which we are representing using angle R, and that is called the angle of reflection. Now, using this diagram, let me just tell you the laws of reflection. There are two laws of reflection, and the first law states that the angle of incidence here is equal to the angle of reflection. That means I can write this as angle I equals to angle R. For a regular reflection, the angle of incidence equals to angle of reflection, which we will represent like this: angle I equals to angle R, and that is the first law of reflection. The second law of reflection, it states that the incident ray, the reflected ray, and the normal at the point of incidence, all these three rays lie in the same plane. That means if I shine a ray of light which is flat on the surface of this board, the reflected ray will also be flat on the surface of this board. It will not come out, or it will not go in the board. And so will this normal and the point of incidence, all of these lie on the surface of the board. So that is the second law of reflection. The next topic, let us discuss about mirrors. Now, how is a mirror constructed? I'm sure in the morning, whenever you go to the bathroom to brush your teeth, you look yourself in the mirror. Okay, so mirror basically is a reflecting surface in which you can see yourself, and you can see yourself very clearly. Mirror is basically made of glass, which has a smooth surface, and on that surface silver is deposited. Now, if silver is deposited on this surface, then this surface becomes the back of the mirror, whereas this surface opposite the silvered surface becomes the reflecting surface. Now, what are the properties of a good mirror? The properties of a good mirror are that it should have a maximum reflection, now this means that most of the light which is falling on the surface should get reflected. If some of the light that is falling on the surface gets absorbed, then the image will be dull. So a good mirror is one that should reflect most of the light so that you get a bright and clear image. Second is that it should not absorb light, and it should not transmit the light also. Now what this means is, if we have a mirror surface like this, and this is the reflecting surface on top, let's say for example if we have 4 rays of light. Now this means that at least most of the rays of light should get reflected. If a few of them absorb, no problem, but if most of the light gets reflected, the image will be clear and sharp. Secondly, it should not absorb light. That means the ray of light, when it strikes the surface, it should get reflected and not get absorbed. But if majority of the light gets absorbed, then there's a problem. The image will be dull. But if some of them get absorbed, it's not a very big problem. The last one is, it should not get transmitted. Transmitted means the ray of light, when it strikes the surface, if it passes through the mirror, this is called transmission. So if the ray of light is not getting reflected and the ray of light is passing through the mirror and getting transmitted, again the image will be dull. So for a good mirror, there should be maximum reflection, should not absorb the light, and should not transmit the light. Next, let's discuss the different types of mirrors. The first type is the plane mirror. Plane mirror is basically a mirror which has got a flat surface and it is silvered on one side so that the other side becomes reflecting, and this is a flat plane surface which is called a plane mirror. The second type of mirror is called a spherical mirror. Now this type of mirror is made in such a way that it is a part of a sphere. Let's say I'm using the circle to represent the sphere and I cut this into two parts. So I get a mirror which is curved in shape. Now here we can either silver the outside or either silver the inside, and depending on where we silver it, we'll get two types of mirrors. If we silver on the outside so that the inner side becomes the reflecting surface, this type of mirror is called concave mirror. The outer surface is silvered, the inner surface becomes reflecting. So this type is called concave, and you can remember it this way. You can remember the word cave. A cave is something that is hollow and it goes inside. So it's easy for you to remember that this is a concave mirror. And if the mirror is silvered on the inside in such a way that the outside portion is reflecting, so this type of mirror is called a convex mirror. So there are two types of spherical mirrors. One is called a concave mirror and other one is called a convex mirror. So to recap, there are three types of mirrors that we have here. The first one is a plane mirror, which is a smooth surface and in which one side is silvered so the other side is reflecting. The other type of mirror is called a spherical mirror, which is a part of a sphere, and you can silver in two ways. If you silver the back, the front becomes reflecting and we get a concave mirror. If the inside is silvered, outside becomes reflecting, it is called a convex mirror. All right. Thank you, everyone.